Dawn Marie looked the part, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did.
Here's one of our favorites, Lance Storm.
Without question. And I loved the presentation of Dawn Marie with Lance Storm. What's great about Lance Storm is in a promotion where, you know, there's so much blood and guts. There's so many crazy high spots. There's tables, there's ladders, there's chairs. Oh my. Lance Storm comes in and goes a different way. And the fans really, really appreciate it because at the time, you know, what really was hardcore or extreme was the love of wrestling from the fans. So you could come in and just put on in-ring traditional wrestling clinics, but if you were really good, that was sufficient. You didn't have to do all the other stuff, but we know how to play along, of course. And the fans are chanting, "Show your tits," which is, really what you do anytime you're, in a group of wrestling fans in Chicago and a woman enters the room. Of course, I'm kidding. Starcast and All Out and All In, it's a different time. But, oh, and look who it is. Jerry Lynn, the whole effing show. He's really on the come up here in 1999. He's started his feud with Rob Van Dam, had a series of matches that have really helped put him on the map. There's Ronnie Lang, Starcast Security, AEW Security. Look over in the corner. There's Sam. Man, you forget how long Atlas Security's been around, huh?
Wow. They have been around, and there's every bit as intimidating looking now as they were back then.
Yeah. The all black suit with the black turtleneck, no matter what time of year it is, that, especially if you're 3.5 bills, that's going to get everybody's attention.
You know, when I watch these shows, Conrad, I've said this many times. I certainly love them and I enjoy what they do. Let me say something about Lance Storm. First of all, I think him being a technical wrestler and being something different than the usual hardcore stuff, to me, is brilliant.
It really works. And it gives him something to sort of rebel against and sort of poop on the fans for. And so, especially when, in this pairing of him and Dawn Marie is genius because she really loves the attention and wants to be the star. It just wants everyone's approval. And when the fans are really chanting for her and she's scantily clad, she's just absolutely loving it. But he's a little annoyed, like, hey, that's not why she's with me. And I thought that was good stuff. And by the way, Lance Storm looks like if you were to build a wrestler, he looks like what you would make. I mean, he's in tremendous shape, excellent presentation. And then here's Jerry Lynn, very similar. He's coming to us with a background and someone, you know, from the WCW days as Mr. JL. He's obviously been, you know, up north in Global and having a tremendous series of matches with Sean Waltman. But now he's finally getting the respect of the fans because of his feud with Rob Van Dam. And Rob Van Dam really helped sort of make him to this ECW crowd. Even if they were a smart crowd and respected his background, it wasn't until his feud with Rob Van Dam that ECW fans were like, oh, this guy could be like next level good. And Lance Storm, you know, people have started to figure that out about as well. Of course, he's worked a lot of shows across the US and across Canada, but probably his first big push, I guess we'll call it, on the map was with Jim Cornette's Smoky Mountain. And you and I haven't spent a lot of time talking about Smoky Mountain. Did you ever see any Smoky Mountain?
No, I never did. Never saw any. I didn't watch other wrestling promotions. And you know, that's, I wanted to say this, when I started talking about Lance Storm. When I watch these shows and I love watching them, to me, it's like stepping into an alternate universe because all this was happening and all this good shit was going on at that time in 1999. And I was unaware.
Right.
So now I go back and I look at this stuff and I think, wow, what the fuck was I doing? And I should have been, well, the good news is I'm watching it now and I'm enjoying it now. And they got great performers and they got a lot of beautiful women and they got rabid fans. And you combine all that, can't go wrong, can you?
No, you cannot.
Yeah, right.
You want to, you know, since you got all this newfound fame and fortune, you want to try to get in the spirit of things here a little bit and do some commentary on a wrestling match?
Well, I don't know if I should or not. I may have to charge you for it if I do.
Well, let me tell you, this got second place in the best match poll amongst the Wrestling Observer readers. There was only 2 matches that were even mentioned, though. Taz, Tanaka, and Mike Awesome, and they got 58 votes. Jerry Lynn and Lance Storm got 8 votes, and that's it. So you talk about a lot of high praise here.
Mm-hmm.
There it is for this main event. We've got nearly a full house here. I guess maybe it is a full house. It's the largest gate and crowd in company history. There's nearly 6,000 fans here, which I know you would say, oh, who cares? Only 6,000. But that was a big deal for ECW here.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're talking to Tony Schiavone, not Bruce Pritchard. Okay.
Well, cause you would be like, oh, around this time we were selling out the Georgia Dome. Well, they paid $208,000 here. And, it's the first time ECW has been, as Meltzer would say, in that money stratosphere. And he says a lot of this is because it's the first pay-per-view available in Canada. So it's got more, eyeballs and opportunities for eyeballs than any other show in their company history. And they've just started on TNN. So they've got, more exposure there.
Yeah. That was my question. They were on TNN. But before that, how many clearances do they have? I mean, that was back in the day. That's how you got your product over. You had clearances and you went in all these markets with TV shows.
Well, what they were doing is they were buying time on syndication, and it was usually, starting no earlier than 10 PM, but usually somewhere between like midnight or 11 and 2 AM.
Right.
In various markets. I think in my market, I saw them, not in my market. I had a satellite, but they came on the Sunshine Network at like 1 AM or something like that.
Right. You had to put something like this on late at night.
Yes. Well, I don't think you had to put the content on. You got to appreciate these guys. Sorry to say Eric Bischoff. Paul Heyman is writing a check every week for these tapes to be aired. So if you're wanting to air in prime time, guess what? That costs more.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was on late because it was easier to air maybe questionable content, although I appreciate that sentiment. I think it's on late because it's just cheaper. Like here in my local market, if I was to say, hey, I want to buy, a half hour of time. And of course these were hour shows, but I'm just saying, for instance, if I wanted to buy a half hour and I wanted it to be, Thursday nights at 8 PM, well, good luck. That's going to be a 5-figure investment, no matter what. Substantial money, even here in just Huntsville, Alabama. However, if you were to say, hey, I want a half hour at, a Friday night at 2 AM. So technically that's Saturday morning. I could get on our biggest local station and they'd be like, oh, cool. Can you give us like $500? So it's like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. So the feasibility when you're trying to say, hey, we need to sort of blanket North America, which if you go back a generation, that's how the WWF first really rose to prominence, as they went around and made deals at all these different television stations that had existing opportunities with other promotions. And then just offered to pay more. And so, whereas Vince McMahon was coming in trying to say, hey, I'll pay you more, Paul Heyman, because of budget, was coming in saying, hey, I need to pay as little as possible. And as a result, he got a lot of middle of the night time slots.